This boy and girl are going to be well equipped when the time comes to take their places as worthy members of adult society.
Aloha, y'all. This is Daniel Eisenman, the host of the Breaking Normal podcast, where my guests are all invited based on the frequency of synchronicity, all done in person, and all trailblazers in the breaking of all things normal.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. Breaking Normal podcast episode. I wish I knew. And it's June 11th. I'm going to Hawaii in 2 days, and I'm really excited to sit down with who's across me right now, Jayson Gaddis from the relationshipschool.com. That's your website?
Yep.
Relationshipschool.com.
That's right.
Jayson Gaddis. And just so people know, I found you through our podcast producer here at Let's Do Podcasts, Yvel.
Yeah.
And you have a significant following online under your personal name. And how do you spell that for people?
Jayson, Gaddis, Gaddis.
Okay, nice. Well, I'm excited because I think I'll be able to glean some good wisdom from you going into this new season in my life.
Cool.
As I just got out of a relationship, and it's been about a month ago. And prior to that, I internationally co-parent, and I currently do that. So my daughter and I are going on a vacation to Hawaii together, as this will be our first summer solo, just us two. She usually spends the summers with her mom.
Okay.
So
how old is she?
8.
8. Nice.
Yeah, her name's Davina.
Okay.
You have some kids as well.
I do. 16-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Names?
Boy and a girl. Lucian is the boy, and the
Lucian.
girl is
Wow.
Neva.
Two very unique names.
Yeah.
And you work on this business with your wife, is that correct? Or
it's complicated. Mostly it's me, and she comes in as like the magic kind of secret facilitator, teacher. So we just started our own podcast as a couple called Integrated, and it's for couples, entrepreneurial couples.
Oh, cool.
So we're kind of merging into, do we want to work more together or not?
That's an interesting niche.
Yeah.
And it's something that I did with my daughter's mom for a while. Like I did retreats for about 11 years, and the last 7 of them, we did them together, with like the culmination being in Sedona, September 2019. And then that's when we started co-parenting here in Boulder.
Okay.
But as you can imagine, like I don't even know where to begin on the topic of relationships, other than what I told you prior to pressing record, which is I used to do retreats with my brothers about food, fitness, and fun. Yeah. And inevitably it turned into really focusing on about like real relationships, like starting with ourselves and with others. And that seems to be the healthiest, most important thing.
Yeah.
For almost everyone.
Right. Get our own house in order. Yeah.
This is like a core tenet of living potentially a better life.
Yeah. And we don't need to wait until we are in the summit of personal development to be in a partnership, right? Because that's impossible.
So what are y'all with your work right now? And maybe that'll help me interject my own personal life into it. In your work currently, what is the most important topic? What are y'all working the most on? Is it one-on-one coaching? Are you doing retreats? Is it just the podcast?
Yeah. One-on-one and one-on-two coaching. So individual and couples coaching.
Okay.
All entrepreneurial people. And so I do that. And then I run and certify coaching trainings. So I certify coaches from all over the world.
Oh, cool. And
we have a 9-month training, which is super intense. This will be my 14th training I'm leading since 2016 when I started. And, I just want to help people get better at this part of their life. So whatever means possible, whether it's groups, I run men's groups. My wife and I are going to do couples retreats. We haven't done those yet. I do in-person events. Yeah, just online courses.
So it's kind of spread out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like there's a funnel, right? Like the free things all the way down to the deep dive.
And these trainings, how long do they last? So you've done 14 since 2016. Are they in person? Or okay.
So 9 months. So pre-COVID, we would do 2 or 3 events inside the training in person. So people have to fly from all over the world here. And we do hybrid, so on Zoom.
Okay.
And then COVID hit and we took everything online for the last many years. And I'm just this year coming back to some in-person stuff because I'm longing to be doing this right now, like just being with people in person. I'm just a little Zoom fatigued. And we'll still do that, right? Between our in-person events, we'll still have like a Zoom bridge meeting every other week to teach and talk about this stuff in practice. But the meat of it is these in-person retreats.
And what was the like pivotal point for you to shift into this industry? Because I imagine you were doing something before.
I was pretty lost, actually. In my 20s, I was just fucking around. And between ski coaching ski racing, and I was an outdoor educator. So I worked for Outward Bound, and then I worked for some wilderness therapy programs.
Oh, wow.
Somewhat of a wilderness guide. And then I would live out of my car half the time. And I just was trying to figure myself out while all my friends were like doing the corporate, I want to make money thing. I was like anti-money.
Did you go to college?
I did. Got an undergrad in geography,
Oh,
environmental
cool.
geography.
Whereabouts?
University of Utah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that in Salt Lake or
Salt Lake City?
Okay.
Yeah, I was on the 5-year plan because 4 years in, the lady said, dude, you need to pick a major. And I said, what do I have the most credits in? And she said geography. And I said, great. So that way I could get at least sneak it in 5 years.
That's exactly what happened to me junior year.
Wow.
They're like, you're like the only person are
Yeah.
you planning on staying an extra year? You have one choice, a biology major. I'm like, all right, I'll major in that.
Yeah.
That was
so
like
funny.
the only thing my credits would allow me to graduate in 4 years. And anyways, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So my 20s was basically full of just a lot of short-term relationships. You could call them failures, where I would just kind of keep the women at bay, arm's length, not let them into my heart because I was so blocked as a dude. And then at age 29, I was breaking up with yet another good woman in the Whole Foods parking lot in Salt Lake. And in that car, in that conversation, in her Subaru, I realized it just felt like a broken record. I was saying the same things that I had said in previous relationships. And I was like, fuck, maybe I'm the problem here. And I said that out loud. And she was like, you think? And then I was like, no, really, I think there's something I'm doing wrong here. And I was genuine. I had said it before as like a cop-out, like, oh, it's because I didn't want to be the bad guy. Maybe it's me. But I meant it this time. And I was like, God, if I'm the one common denominator here, I can do something about that. Because I always was trying to change her to make me feel better. Now I was like, what if I change me? And that was a major breakthrough for me. And then within a few months, I was enrolled in graduate school and moved to Boulder, Colorado to study psychology, study myself.
Oh, wow.
So pain essentially brought me to this work.
To like Naropa?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you've lived here since then?
Yeah. Moved here in 2002.
And then you're married. When did that happen?
Met my wife in grad school.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. She was 2 years ahead of me. We had, it was like the first kind of woman I dated. I was used to dating girls. And that, to me, that means I would always find women who I could feel superior to and like their coach guy. And so they wouldn't challenge me, which of course I both liked that and I also resented it. And she was the first kind of eye level person that was like intimidating to me. And I was like, wow. And within 2 or 3 dates, I was like in tears talking to her. I just felt so safe and like open and like she could hold me in my bullshit. And she was challenging me very quickly from the beginning. And I was ready. I was like, I'm so tired of these short-term relationships. I want to do the real deal thing. And so I dove in with her. And then of course I ran away a couple times. So we had a couple breakups, but she left the door cracked open from that second breakup. And she took me back because I said, I'm really serious now.
What a big topic. What do you mean she left the door cracked open? Because how many people might be dealing with wondering if the door is cracked open and maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Or maybe it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the second breakup, I broke up with her right before this month-long meditation retreat that I went on with my teacher, where we were meditating 9 hours a day. And she wrote me a letter that I got in the first week this is back when you wrote letters. It came to the retreat and I opened it. And the first week when I read the letter, I felt so defensive. I was like, fuck you, like whatever. But by the fourth week, I was like thanking her and saying she's right. So it took me that long sitting with myself to go, okay, I think she's completely on point here. Like I'm the problem. And then I came back from the retreat. I had an amazing therapy session with a really skilled therapist who said, basically, what if you're going to be ambivalent about commitment the rest of your life, and can that be okay? And I was like, And he said some other things, and within 2 weeks, I said, can we have another conversation? She said, I'm only going to talk to you if it's about marriage. If it's not about marriage, I never want to speak to you again, basically.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, it's about marriage. And so we went over to this mutual friend's house, and
I definitely honor her for that boundary.
Oh,
Holy
she was,
moly.
that's what actually got me pulled into the whole thing and got me on board, was because before she was like wobbly in herself in a way that was not attractive. And while I was on the meditation retreat, she was doing her own deep work, and she got super clear that she was like not going to tolerate bullshit anymore. And that became that kind of pull that she was holding, that position, felt that was just attractive as hell. And I was like, damn. So I was like, I want to be with that strong of a woman, right? I don't want to let this go.
Wow. And then now you'll have 2 kids.
Yeah.
14 and 12. Holy moly.
So here we are. It's 18 years of marriage this year. 20, almost 2 together. Yeah.
Where was that meditation retreat, by the way?
Down in Crestone.
Oh, wow. That town is wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny little spot.
Have you done that again?
Many times. Many times since then. Yeah, many month-long retreats with this teacher, and then I moved. That was I was deep in a Buddhist community for a long time, and then transitioned out of that.
You would live down there for
No, I would just come down. Oh, I lived here. Month. Yeah, but I would just sign off for a month and go on retreat.
Wow.
Yeah, group retreat. Yeah.
That's pretty intense. Did your family ever join you on those?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you think that's healthy for couples to do? Plan time away like that?
I mean, for time away together, for sure. Time on a month-long meditation retreat, I'm not sure. Okay. That could be an ass kicker. But when you have kids, like I would never want to take a month away from my kids. That's too much for me. It's too long.
At this point, but were you doing that when they were younger?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Actually, no. Let's see. That's a good question. 2000. We had our first son. We had our son in 2009. No. Once the kids were here, I was done.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, because one of the previous guests, Rhett Taylor, I don't know if you know him. We were talking about his vision quest of like being alone. You know, it's one thing like water fasting, but being alone is like when I started thinking about it, it intimidated me. And then it made me think of a previous guest who was on the show Alone.
Okay.
And Donnie Dust. And when I watched that show, I don't know if you've ever seen that. Yeah. It seems like what gets most people the fastest is strictly like, I don't think it's worth being away from my family anymore, even if I win. Yeah. Like even $1 million, like I just want to see my family that bad. Yeah. That seems to what break most people.
Yeah, man, relationship, right? Pulls people back out of that stuff for sure.
So it's interesting, because I used to travel very different. But since my daughter's been born, it's just like changed everything how I see the world.
Right. Like you were a traveler before?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And we traveled some with her, and which is awesome. And I'm getting to travel with her soon again. Yeah. But most of my travels are just like within our block. Exactly. I want to be with her. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, traveling around the neighborhood on a Strider.
Well, in your work, is there a common, like, is there like top 3 things that are like the most struggle points of relationships?
Completely. Yeah. I think the very first thing is people go into a long-term relationship with a lot of fantasies about how it's going to go. You meet the right person or find the one, and it's all just magically works out. But you and I both know it's not how it is. You know, and people do genuinely think that the honeymoon stage of just kind of we're all on the same page and everything's so easy for that 6 months or year or 2 years for some people, that's how it's going to be. And it's like, that's just not how it is. Eventually, finances, kids, pressure, stress, our childhood trauma, stuff just comes up invariably. And then we have to learn how to deal with that. And most people are not equipped, because there was no class in high school or college on how to do this stuff well. So we're just we start drowning in the deep end, and we're like, God, what do I do? And a lot of people have it that if you would just change, then we'd be cool. And so that gets into like a blame defend cycle. And then people's communication under stress, if the stress is between the two of them, goes out the window. And they just start behaving like teenagers or kids that are angry and hurt. And so if people understand just that.
What was the last thing you said? They start acting like, what did you say?
Teenagers, like hurt teenagers or hurt kids, hurt little 5-year-olds. And we all do that, right? I do that when I'm really hurt. And I shut down, I blame, I do whatever I do. But the work is, can I develop the capacity to be with my own activation and yours at the same time, and then communicate effectively? And that's hard. That's like an advanced skill. And most people are like white belts here. And people really need to develop their capacity for discomfort and their communication skills under stress. And then I would say the conflict repair cycle needs to be top priority. Like, you have to get very good at correcting the mistakes like a team. And that also is very hard, especially if I feel like you are the person that wronged me and that we're in this because of you. What's there to repair? I don't want to repair. It's kind of your fault. And if people get very stuck there, and then they start behaving like a really terrible team. And so it's like, how do we share power? How do we share decision making? How do we share leadership and become a great team? And unfortunately, most couples aren't asking that. They're thinking the way to be a great team is to get you off my back, to change you, if you would just be different, whatever. And that doesn't work.
All right. So you say sharing power, leadership, and what was the other one?
Decision making.
All right. Mm-hmm. Is there ideal? Do you see like a good ratio for that for most people, or is it completely case by case? Like, should it be like 50-50 all the time? Should like the man be the 60-40 leadership?
Definitely not.
What is your opinion?
My dad would say so.
Okay.
His generation would say so. But no, I think it's different for everybody. I do think the other thing I would say just about kind of people need to realize is we're making this whole thing up. Like, our relationship is like a piece of art or a song. How do we want to write the song? We're making it up. There's no other song like ours. There's no other piece of art like ours. So if that's true, and even when we try to ingest Jason's way of doing it or Daniel's way of doing it, it might not work for us. So we have to figure it out together and be co-creative and co-creators. And if we decide that you get 51% decision-making power with the kids and I get 49, cool. And if that works for us, great. But each couple has to decide. Yeah, but I do feel like there are these, like you said, your dad would think so. There are these dogmas that what I'm hearing you almost say is creating your own strategy is much more important than following into someone else's. Yes. Yeah, because your nervous systems are unique and your childhood trauma history is different than mine. And so what might work for you might not work for me. But if we're a team and we're married, we're going to have to find a way to work with our nervous systems in a collaborative way. And that's hard, right? Especially when you stress test the system. Yeah. So in your clients with the entrepreneurial couples, is because I'm imagining they're a more wealthy demographic than your average. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so they are. So, I would say so. All right. And is finances a bigger deal, you think, to compare to normal people, or less of a deal? I think that's a good question. I don't think it's more or less of a big deal than the average person. You're dealing with more money, and I think there can be more entitlement on the earner's part. So, like, my wife and I just did a podcast about this. There's 3 types of entrepreneurial couples, and one of the types is a solo entrepreneur with a supportive spouse. Okay. And that one can really fall into gender roles. The man is running the business and earns the money, so therefore he, quote, has more power. And the woman's raising the kids, and somehow she has less power because it's perceived by society that money equals power, but parenting kids is not power. And we devalue mothers consistently all over the place. So some entrepreneurial couples can fall into that kind of dynamic. Nope, I can relate to that one. Yeah. And then what were you going to tell me other ones? You said there was 3 different types. I mean, if it's worth it, I just mentioned them. I'm curious because it's interesting. There's copreneurs and dual entrepreneurs. Dual entrepreneurs we both run our own businesses. Copreneurs we run the same business together. You're the visionary and I'm the integrator or something. I'm the lead person, you're the ops person, like whatever.
That's interesting.
And there's just different dynamics with these things, you know?
Yeah. I'm thinking like, for a future relationship, which one is the most ideal for me?
Yeah. Cool.
Do you think there's a most ideal one for, or once again, case by case?
No, because all three of them can work really well if they learn how to be an awesome team consistently over years. Because everyone can be a great team in the first year.
I think my dream one is a duel.
Yeah.
The 1 or 3, the solo or the duel.
Yeah. You mean where you're each running your own thing, or you're running
my bad.
Supporting?
I meant the like
yeah,
the 1 or 2.
co-preneurs.
Yeah, like co-preneurs would be like my top choice.
Got it.
But I wonder if that's fantasy.
Yeah.
For me.
So you'd want to live and work with your partner 24/7.
I've tried. That's where things got a little stickier.
Yeah, it can get hard. I'd love to get into that, and I know
well, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to.
Well, what would you say didn't work?
Okay.
If there was just like one thing that stood out of maybe anything I've said, or just anything that you've
I think when it was like
reflected on.
When I was the solo supportive one, I was the solo one and there was the supportive. Eventually I feel like the supportive it was like boring. It became more apathetic. Like I now want to do my own thing. So it was like, it worked really well. The solo one worked for a while, but then it was like, my supporter was so inspired. Yeah. Like, why am I doing this? There's this whole group of women that I could do this with. So that became interesting. That like definitely changed our whole relationship when we switched from solo supportive to co.
I want to do my own thing.
Yeah, both doing our own things. Yeah. And sometimes them clashing in this synergistic way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, the time it truly clashed in a synergistic way together, that was the end of our relationship. Afterwards.
Wow.
Which was very fascinating to me.
That is fascinating. Do you think it was because you guys just couldn't figure out how to work together, or what was it like conflict repair stuff, or was it?
I definitely think there was a part of once that independence was established, like, see, we can do our own things.
Yeah.
Then that brought up like, well, maybe we should do our own thing. Like it made it easier to just transition to that.
Yeah. And so, but someone I'm imagining got hurt in that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I'm trying to think if the hurtness related to any of the. It was interesting. There was probably a hurtness enough where all of a sudden things weren't as honest. And that was like the most important thing to me by far. So like, things kind of crumbled, right? And then that's when the transition to we're going to both do our own things and we'll see if we can work together. And then we finally worked together, and then it was like, all right, now we're going to really do our own things.
Okay. Yeah. So there was already stress.
Yeah.
And maybe some stuff going on before.
Yeah, the stress almost like now that I'm looking back and saying it all out loud, it's like almost the stress response may have been going from supportive to doing our own things. Individually. Yeah, because kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, another layer we're not talking about here that you might be aware of already is the attachment layer of the attachment dynamic going on kind of under the surface, which a lot of couples are oblivious to, where there's usually a seek avoid dynamic. Like under stress, one person wants to talk it out, one person wants to withdraw and kind of hide out or get quiet or retreat. And that creates another level of stress, right? Because it's like, I want to get away from you is one person, and the other person's like, can we please talk? And couples get really jammed up there. They don't know how to work with that attachment dynamic.
So how do we work with that? Because I can relate to that one too.
Yeah. I mean, they both, again, if the couple can identify this is going on, this is part of our teamness, is you tend to retreat and get quiet, and that's activating for me. And then I want to talk and come toward you, and that's activating for you, right? Like we both get activated by our pattern of what we do under stress. We're either moving toward or moving away from a relationship. And isn't it interesting that it's activating for the other person? Of course. So how are we, if that's true, how are we going to do this kind of seek avoid dynamic in a way that works for both of us, that's respectful, that's caring, that's not making someone wrong for their pattern? Because it's a nervous system pattern. It's not like we choose this. It's not that conscious. It's more of an unconscious, bottom-up nervous system response to relationship under stress. It's what we did as a kid. Did we move away from people and see them as not helpful, or did we move toward them? Because sometimes we got some help. And that's the anxious person. So again, with this all is awesome. It's grist for the mill. It's like fuel for our relationship. If we can not pathologize it, not blame anyone here, no one's wrong. We just have these patterns. What are we going to do to come back into connection in a good way?
So in the scenario of someone getting extra activated and like wanting to talk it out, and the other person doing the opposite, wanting to retreat, is there a good solution there that it can come to?
Yeah. I mean, there's two things I'd say. So one is you got to be aware of the attachment dynamic and learn to work with it. And that's how you work with it is bottom up through touch, sound, body language, like sending signals that I'm safe and I'm not going to hurt you and I'm not mean. Mm-hmm. So we have to behave like a mammal that's safe if we want our person to come forward, right? And relax. And we can do that through words or not words or both. And words is like we usually want to start with ownership if we're going to talk. If we're coming toward to repair something that was a snag, we want to come with listening. What is it that I did that was upsetting? I'd love to really listen to you. And I have an acronym I call LUFU, L-U-F-U. It stands for listen until the other person feels understood. And if I can commit to having you feel understood and you tell me you feel understood, you're going to relax and then you're going to be interested in what happened for me, hopefully, right?
And what that's bringing up for me is like in the situation. So if I'm the person that's like, let's figure this out,
yeah.
And the other person, and I want to listen,
yeah,
but they don't.
They're just like offline, right?
Like maybe the response is like going into stoic, silent mode.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to, again, if we're a team, I want to say, hey, outside of that moment, we want to be able to talk about it. Like, hey, remember when you kind of retreat and you get quiet and I want to talk? You know, when we get into that place, I just need you to know that gets super hard for me and I don't know what to do because I try to talk and that seems to make it worse. I want to listen, but you don't really want to come forward. So I'm feeling kind of helpless. Is there anything I can do differently that would have you feel like I'm less demanding or needy or that would actually feel supportive? And usually, we'll call this the anxious person and the other person, the avoidant person for now. Mm-hmm. The anxious person needs to say things like, you didn't do anything wrong. You're not wrong. I care about you. I miss you. And you can totally take space. And I just want to reconnect when you're available. And that kind of language is going to go better than, where are you? What's your problem? And you're avoiding and demanding, right? But again, we can have an agreement ahead of time outside of this moment that's like, hey, can we agree in our relationship that we don't go more than 24 hours without an attempt to reconnect? Is that feel reasonable to both of us, given that you'd rather have probably 3 days and I'd rather have like 2 hours? Can we agree that maybe 24 hours could work for us? We've got to, if we truly care about each other, we've got to be a team and come back within 24. Can we agree? Yes, I agree. So then when it goes 48, you're like, hey, we agreed. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to shame them for that, but you can just gently like tap, tap, tap. Hey, we agreed.
All right. It's like 1,000 questions, but one's coming up that's especially with you being in a long lasting relationship and y'all even working together in this cool way. For someone that's in a long relationship and they're feeling stagnant, mm-hmm. Is there any refueling techniques that you have found to be most effective? Yeah,
usually when people are stagnant, they've kind of checked out, and they need to get honest with, when did I check out? When did I kind of make it okay to have things be stagnant?
When do people do that usually? Do you know?
Often, like after kids is a classic one.
Okay.
Where the sex life changes and people don't know what to do, and then it drifts, and then the mom prioritizes the kids and the dad feels left out. That's a common one. And then a chasm starts to emerge, and it gets bigger and bigger the longer they don't talk about it. And then pretty soon, guy goes to work and he gets comfortable and he gets a lot of validation at work, and she's getting a lot of validation with the kids, and they're both getting validation somewhere else. So it's kind of like, no, there's no problem here. And then the years go by and they've drifted apart. And then their kids, usually at empty nesting, when the kids are out of the house, then they're like looking at each other like, who the fuck are you? And should we just get a divorce now? Because I don't even care about you anymore. They call it falling out of love, but I don't believe that. It's more like I got lazy and complacent, and I chose not to stay in the fire with you. I just moved away, and I got scared, and I got into self-protection. I put my wall up. Like, if people could own that, that'd be a lot better than, I don't know, we just drifted apart. That's just a lazy excuse. Yeah.
What about, I know we live in a very psychedelic town.
Yeah.
What about MDMA couples therapy? Are you partaking or familiar with this?
Yeah, I love psychedelics for what they're for, which is like, give me an insight into my trauma, give me a window into what's possible. But psychedelics don't replace development. So if you have a powerful MDMA couple session, which is great, because that can loosen it takes the amygdala offline. We can open our hearts, and it's not so scary to have the hard conversations. And now we can remember who we are. Like, oh, I love you, actually. Like, I care about you. I'm so sorry. Like, you can have really powerful breakthroughs on MDMA, but then you go back to your life, and what are you going to do? Did you learn any new tools? Did you learn how to repair? Did you learn how to communicate differently? Are you going to apply yourself every fucking day like a new person so that your partner feels understood every day and prioritized? And are they going to do the same for you? Or are you going to like do MDMA psychedelics once every 6 months as like some kind of reboot? So I'm like fine with psychedelics as long as there's development that follows, like hardcore development. It's like weight training. You know, you don't get fit after a 6-month workout or a year-long commitment to some training regimen and then stop and think you get to stay at that level of fitness. You know, you're just going to atrophy and fall right back to your comfort zone. You got to do this the rest of your fucking life, especially if you're over 40, right? You're like, it's game on for me with weight training and fitness forever. And that's relationship. It's work for life. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Why not?
I think it's the hedonistic adaptation of the human being. We want pleasure without pain. We want things to be easy. And it's understandable. I want things to be easy. But all the good things in my life come from effort. You know, and I feel most awesome with myself when I put in the work to whatever it is. And I get a result. And I'm like, wow, I want to keep going. This is fulfilling. This process is invigorating. This process is meaningful. It's hard and it's gritty and it's raw. And I just think the phones and the gadgets and the news, it's like distraction machine to keep us disconnected and, you know, wanting easy. I don't know. That's one idea. I'm curious what you think.
I mean, I immediately thought about how children grow up seeing their parents. That might have a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Like what they grew up
they were modeled.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But that can't be, we can't like blame our parents for who we are now. We've got to take responsibility at a certain point, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So you said you over 40. How old are you?
52.
What? You're 52?
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Well, not only do you look younger than 52, you look very healthy and strong. Like you said, you must be putting in effort to stay fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a cancer diagnosis last year.
What?
And prior to that, I had tons of athletic injuries. Like I could get away with being an injured, athletic, entitled guy through late 30s and early 40s. And then my body started telling me like multiple shoulder dislocations and missing cartilage in my kneecap, below my kneecap, and just pain. And I started limping around running with my kids. And I was like, dude, I can't do this. I got to get my shit together. And I had been to physical therapy for years, but I was that half-assed client. They'd tell, hey, Jayson, do these exercises and you'll get better. And I'd be like, okay, cool. Peace out. And I wouldn't do the exercises. Right. And I was that guy. And then I just had another epiphany and was like, it's time to get my shit together. It was like 40 how old was I? 48. And I'd never lifted weights in my life. And it was like time to train. And I was like, time to get my shit together. And then I started lifting and moving my body differently and strengthening my glutes and my core and working with someone who taught me how to move my body differently, because I had all these bad habits, right? And I still do, that I'm trying to undo and build in the new myelination for the good habits. And then, I think the stress of running my own business and other things woke up some cancer, and prostate cancer last year.
Oh, wow.
In March 2023.
How are you dealing with that?
Good. That's strong. It's been a blessing because it's just made me healthier. And I'm working with great integrative docs, and they're helping me stay on it. So it's not growing, and I've got it stable.
And you said you're working with regenerative docs, or what did you say?
Integrative.
Integrative docs.
Yeah.
It's like more like a natural.
Yeah. I mean, I meet with my Western oncologist and urologist, of course, just as a backup plan in case I need to bring out the big guns. But I'm doing a lot of supplements. I'm doing exercise with oxygen therapy and weight training and exercising hard and eating differently. I quit drinking alcohol. Did a lot of lifestyle changes that feel good.
Yeah, my dad was diagnosed with bladder cancer a few years ago, and then it looks like he overcame it. The last test was all clear. His dad was awesome. Diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Okay, so you're more at risk.
Potentially. It's like,
have you got your shit tested, dude?
I trust I'm
Have you got your shit tested?
No. What do you mean, like prostate?
Prostate and colon.
I've gotten a physical prostate test at one point in my life, because I think I started getting hyper paranoid.
Okay.
And the guy was like, "You look good."
How old are you?
I just turned 40.
Okay, so in the next 5 years, you got to get really on your fucking game around the prostate health and the colon.
Well, I've been taking a lot of supplements, actually.
I mean, you look like a healthy dude. So I'm not worried about you. But
are you taking?
Or
dude,
I'm
you
on
find
like
most effective
40 supplements.
Yeah, I started looking into this even for my dad's sake, and I'm like, because I'm in the supplement industry. I actually brought you some. That elk velvet. Have you ever used that?
No.
We can talk about it, but that's really good for joint pain, and that's tallow balm. That's the one right there. That's it's an interesting product because it's the velvet. When the antlers are in the velvet state, they clip them, freeze dry them, and we mix it with liver and heart. There are people that sell velvet by itself, and there are people that sell liver and heart, but we mix the two.
Damn.
And it's a good product. So if you want to try that, I know you're probably on a strict regimen now. I understand.
Oh yeah.
My dad is so strict about taking certain things and not taking certain things, and that's a skin product. That's our tallow balm.
This is so cool.
Yeah, so if you want to use that, I got a book. I'll sign that for you. You have a book, by the way?
I do.
What's the name of the book?
I should have brought it. Getting to Zero.
Getting to Zero.
And then the subtitle is How to Work Through Conflict in Your High Stakes Relationships.
That's a great book and a great title, and the subtitle, I like it.
Zero is like getting back to a good place. That's what all that means.
Is that on Amazon, or where's the best place?
Amazon, yeah.
Do you have an Audible version?
Oh yeah, I read the whole thing.
You do? All right, I do too on Breaking Normal.
Fun.
All right, I'm gonna probably download that.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's fun. I think it's but it's basically a book on how to repair. That's the whole fucking book. It's 300
was that
pages.
published? Because my whole book's about breaking breaking normal.
Yeah, I love it, man. 2021 or 2.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah. Getting to Zero.
Yeah, I'll get you a copy. I'm
happy to get the Audible. I prefer Audibles at this point in my life, because I'm doing a lot of things, and I'm like, if I can listen to something inspiring and learn more while I'm doing the busy work, it's very synergistic. It feels. But yeah, one of the reasons I brought it up is a lot of guys. It seems like a lot of young guys. I hear about it a lot. I'm not sure if I see it as much because where I live in West Boulder at the creek, I just see a lot of cool young guys. But I hear about this pandemic of young guys just being strapped to their couch on their phone, looking at porn, scrolling through dating sites, not being attractive.
Not being attractive.
Not being
resilient. Not being strong. Not being
So, I mean, are there, for those young men out there, do you have any words of inspiration? Because that's been a theme that's come to, even a lot of people I've interviewed, they got off the couch. But they were there. They talked about it. Yeah. And so maybe it's more true than I see in my everyday reality. Yeah. I hear a lot about it, and it's sad to hear. Yeah,
it's sad. I mean, I might have been one of those guys had I had a phone back then, and had I had access to what we have access to. And social media, and just God. I mean, it is. I was just at a men's conference actually, and And one of the guys came up and spoke, and the stats were really alarming in terms of deep down in their hearts, the men that they surveyed, and they surveyed thousands of men all over the country, really want love. That's their biggest pain point, is love. But they're also doing all the things to defend against it, including keep their heart closed, including continuing to blame women, act in manospheric, misogynistic ways, subordinating to the culture that puts women down and puts feelings and stuff in a box, like you're gay if you feel your feelings, or you hug another man a certain way. It's still really pervasive to have it be not okay to just like be a sensitive, awesome dude that's strong and sensitive at the same time, or vulnerable and strong. Like vulnerable is strong, right? Like you and I get that. But I'd say to the guys, like, if it's true that in your heart of hearts you want a good relationship, you got to start becoming an adult, and like you said, being attractive, doing the things that, like, just basic working out, or improving your communication skills and your listening skills. Stop talking about yourself. Become a better listener. Start asking better questions when you're with women. Like take an interest in their life and who they are. Develop your emotional literacy and capacity to feel your feelings, because otherwise you'll do what I did, which was to shut women down because I couldn't feel my feelings. So they brought theirs, and I'd be like, get away from me. But as soon as I learned how to feel, then I was like, oh, I can handle your feelings.
Bridging it back to psychedelics now, I just had a funny flashback. I don't know why this came into my mind, but one of the first times I had smoked weed enough where I was like high in public.
Yeah.
I remember feeling invincible because I was so interested in whatever any girl told me that I was just like, and I remember like even tripping out, like silent and listen, they're the same letters, like. And then I was like thinking about the leaders listen, and I was just going around, and it was I had this sense of like euphoric success, like I almost like found a code of life.
Wow.
Was it like if I could just like listen so enthusiastically to whoever I'm interacting with, that is the very most attractive thing I could do, whether it's a guy or a girl or like a business deal. And I'm happy you reminded me of that.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it is a superpower. It's a superpower to listen to someone, to like, if I talk to my dad after this, I could tell him all about our conversation. Like I was listening that closely. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I think young men, if they could learn that, right, it would change the lives of so many women. They'd be like, thank you. I feel so seen, and I feel so cared about and prioritized.
And you mentioned like the manosphere. And is that like, you mean like the Andrew Tates of the world? Is that kind of that? Andrew Tate, because I'm somewhat familiar with him.
We could weave in some other people in there, the Joe Rogans of the world.
Okay.
That are just can promote a certain kind of masculinity.
And it makes me wonder, because I think I've been in a relationship before where I was like, I'm just going all in on showing all my emotions. Yeah. To where I almost afterwards, I wonder if I felt slightly traumatized, because I was like, was that attractive? Like, did I just start getting off on being emotional? And it was like, it's almost like I was creating these emotional issues so I could feel more high on my own supply of being vulnerable. Okay. Yeah. I almost like wonder if I was like recovering from that at one point. Yeah. And it's because I do like, I do think the point that maybe someone like Andrew Tate would make, like about crying in front of your girlfriend, there does seem to be, when is that too much? Yeah. Do you have any guidance around that fine line? Right. If there is one.
Right. There might be. I don't know. Again, we have to read our audience. I think it's an attunement thing, is like, who are we with? Right. If I feel safe with a woman, let's say, to cry because I'm just feeling it, because I watched a movie or because there's something going on between us, I'd say let it rip, And if you're only emoting with her and you're expecting her to be your emotional support system, that's too much for a relationship. You've got to also have your therapist or coach or your men's group or some bros you can go cry on their shoulder also. Like you can kind of spread it out, right? But my wife gets priority on my vulnerability over anybody else in my life. And I bring that to her as much as I can first, right? And then like my next kind of closest circle of guys, and I have a few girlfriends that are close, and of course my therapist. But I don't know. I just, the overdoing it would, if it feels bad to someone, it's because either they have a problem with emotions, or it's maybe like oversharing where it's just misattuned. It's like you're taking up a lot of space and you're not giving her time to be vulnerable, or who knows? Like if it feels bad, there's probably some other dynamic going on.
Yeah. And then another interesting one, I'm just like voicing them as they're coming.
Yeah.
The men's group work. I mean, I appreciate how you said that you prioritize your emotions with your wife, number one. I'm imagining that I'm just thinking about some people I know in different men's groups that's not the case. That they prioritize their emotions with the men's group first.
That would be okay, I think, as long as I'm not withholding my heart or my vulnerability from my wife. And I think some marriages fall into that, where it's like, well, my wife, she's not really into personal growth. So like certainly a lot of women do this, where stereotypically their man can't handle their emotions and all the things they're going through. So they go to their girlfriends for emotional support, right? That's very common in like, especially a traditional dynamic. I don't think that's great for a marriage. I think the guy needs to like learn how to feel so he can handle his wife's pain.
And vice versa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've wondered about that dynamic, because I've dealt with that a few times where I was like, wow, I'm getting like the second processing of this, because you already processed it with your girlfriend or your sister. Yeah. I'm like, is that the best way to do this?
Right. I mean, I think it's, again, if we have it takes a village, right? And in a long-term relationship, I think the couple should prioritize being vulnerable with each other over anyone else.
Well, I'm excited we got it dropping some. How's our timing, by the way? What are we on?
You're at 47 right now.
Man, I ask that every time at 47. That's my daughter's birthday too.
You got your kind of basically called that too.
Yeah, so we're right there, and we have some more time. I don't know if you have anything you want to make sure that if you're feeling inspired to talk about anything in particular. Give some space for that.
Yeah, thanks. No, we're just kind of weaving all over. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once again, the best place, if someone wants to reach out to you, or what's the website?
Yeah. So I'm at Jayson Gaddis on most social media, and that can be a .com if you want to check out my personal site, or relationshipschool.com.
Cool.
For courses and trainings and things.
Awesome. And this next training is in person? Is that what I'm understanding? There's an in-person
2 in-person
option?
events, like kickoff weekend kind of.
Are they going to be here in Boulder?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we're online for 8 months or whatever, and then we go back to graduating, kind of ending together.
Oh, cool.
9 months later. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, in person.
Nice. And are most of the clients local, or are they mixed?
Mixed. We have people from all over the world that come. We have a woman from South Africa coming, maybe a woman from Australia, a guy from Australia coming. So it depends. Mostly local though, stateside somewhere.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, since I have more time, let's see because I want to just really juice this here. You mentioned the idea after kids, how sometimes that could be a point of stagnation.
Yep.
Especially in the sex life.
Yep.
I remember. And even just like the physical trauma from birth being part of a reason the woman might not being interested and slightly traumatized. Like, I don't know if I want to risk getting pregnant again.
Yeah. That, and whether she had a cesarean or a, home natural birth, it doesn't matter. It's like a big deal for her body to go through that. And so she's not going to want a dude in her like a week later. She needs like time to heal. Right.
But what if it's like a year later? Is that something you see?
That's a little long.
Is that something?
Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for this?
Again, that couple's avoiding something. Yeah. And I'd say it's on the couple, because we want to usually blame someone. It's the couple's fault that's gone on for a year of no sex. What are you guys doing? Who's falling asleep here? Why are you falling asleep? Like, why is this not a priority? And look, most sexual trauma of any kind or birth trauma can be healed and worked through to the point where people can have sex again and make love in a good way. In my experience, that might not be true in some cases, but I'm a big believer of we can heal almost anything if we put our heads together and hearts together. Like we can get through some hard stuff, but we both have to be willing. We both have to be committed. We both have to learn new things. We can't go back to our patterns of blame and defend and expect to get what we want, you know.
And I'm gonna keep popcorn in here.
Yep.
The finances, I know that's a big one. Sex has got to be a huge one. Is
Yeah.
it? Are there common issues like this? He always wants to have sex and she doesn't, or vice versa, or like I want to have sex a lot more and we're not having it enough. Is there a common gap with the sex situation?
Yeah, sometimes it's sex drives. Sometimes it's in the male-female dynamic. It's man. I just was talking to a friend this morning, actually trying to help him out with this one. Man wants not so much foreplay. He can do without foreplay, and she's like all about foreplay. And they can't just, if he just comes over to her side and says, okay, I'll do the foreplay thing, it works for her. But what about when he just wants to take her and have it be faster, quicker, more whatever? There's got to be, again, it's a team. Like we got to both do things that work for both of us here.
Okay. Nice.
And it's also, I just say one more thing about sex and money. It's rarely about the sex and money. It's usually about how we talk about sex and money. And that's all about communication. So it's often that people just suck at communicating about these topics. Like people are smart. They can solve problems together if they learn how to communicate better. Sex is not complicated. Money can get more complicated. If we want to grow wealth, it's more complicated, but we can do it in a good way if we actually speak to each other in a good way and learn how to listen differently. And because there's so much charge, right, behind some of these issues. And we can take the charge out of like me against you. And it's like, let's be a team there's the sex issue or there's the money issue. We're a team facing the issue. How do we communicate so that we can deal with this thing over here versus like,
Yeah, I'm thinking about the ones that people like probably pedestal the most or the most charging for people to be in dispute about, like God, sex, money. What about God? What about people having different religious beliefs? Do you see that working out well?
Not if they're diametrically opposed and not if there's fundamentalism going on, right? Like I just had, I'm thinking of this couple where, okay. So recently, I'm just going to change some of the details to protect their privacy. But let's say the man was just way into the ayahuasca community, right? And he was like all in. He was like, this is my life. This is my path now. And she was not. And he said, if you don't kind of do this, like, I think it's a deal breaker.
Wow.
Like we need to have the same spiritual path. And she was like, well, that's not my path. I respect it. That's your path. And it ended up splitting them apart. Right. And I think it's because he was so fundamentalist and rigid about it. And I guarantee you in 10 years, he's not going to be an ayahuasca guy. This is a phase, a stage he's going through. Now, if he was Christian or Mormon or Catholic or something, it might be a little different because that tends to last longer than like spiritual, like I'm into my MDMA phase or whatever. Right. Yeah. But I see it work if people hold things loosely and it's like they support each other's truth. And as long as that's online, it can work. But if they see the world fundamentally different and they're at maybe different stages of development in their psyche around religion or something, that's going to be hard.
What about honesty? Like if say, does it work out that like they both know they lie a little bit? or do you go?
I don't think that goes very well.
Full transparency.
Yeah, full transparency is my thing, but with an asterisk here. And the asterisk is every time I see an attractive woman, I don't need to tell my wife about that. Right? That's just like, really? Wow, we're gonna have a lot of fucking conversations, But withholding, people get into trouble here because of porn on the phone, money stuff. Like I'm not going to tell her that I just bought some Bitcoin and, did something over here on the side. That never goes well for people long term. It just becomes a giant withhold, and it creates a kink in the hose of the vibe and the relationship. And it's like, it's acting out. It's like, why are you not telling your best friend? There's got to be a reason you're not telling your best friend, your soulmate, your partner about something. What's that reason? Are you scared? Are you scared to ruin the relationship? Are you scared to get in a fight? Usually it starts small. I'm scared to be judged. I'm scared to be criticized. I'm scared I'm going to create more conflict here. I'm scared it'll just mess things up. Usually it starts there, and then it kind of turns into, time goes on, and then it's like, well, it's been years, and now usually the most painful thing about dishonesty is it's not the act, whether it's an affair or porn or drugs or money. It's, how come you didn't respect me enough to just tell me to my face? That's the thing that hurts the most. Yeah.
Man, well, you definitely are leaving me wanting more. Oh, what about me now, single guy, 40 years old?
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom for all the other millions out there that maybe one day will listen to this? Maybe a few of them. They're listening now.
Yeah, I would say I just really appreciate...
With a kid. With a child.
Single dad.
8-year-old daughter.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. Well, I just respect the hell out of single parents, first of all. Just what you hold, especially when you're on. The level of demand and lack of support you have as single parents. I just like... because I feel really blessed that I have so much fucking support. I can tap out, right? And so
that's a good point. That's the part that I think is when people ask about that part's and I can, because my daughter has friends and she goes to have a sleepover.
Yeah, and she's getting older now.
I can tap over for her.
Sure.
Oh yeah, but when she was 3,
so hard, right?
Whoa.
Dude, the demand is so intense. Yeah. So as they get older, it's a little easier, but still, just a lot of respect for single parents. And I would say I just, again, had another kind of friend of a friend jump into another relationship after being divorced. This dude just got a divorce, and like within a month, he's on dating sites. And I'm like, dude, have you integrated all the lessons from your last relationship, where you fell down, where you blew it? What did you learn about yourself? And where were you awesome and where were you not so awesome? And if you're pointing the finger at her still, you're going to be pointing your finger at the next one when it gets hard. So let's not do that. What are you going to do to integrate and develop yourself from the last one? Learn all the painful lessons. So you've got them integrated, do a lot of therapy and coaching, journaling, so that you're ready. And that timeline of integration could be a month for some, but it's usually like 6 months at least, and sometimes longer, to do that work. So I would just say any single person needs to slow down and not jump right back in. Even if there's an opportunity, it's like, I need to do some integration here from the last, experience. My heart's still a little tender, like whatever, like take your time.
Yeah, someone I once heard about this like ratio, and once again, it's probably case by case. I thought it was a cool formula though. Like if it was a 3-year relationship, at least take 3 months. 5-year, at least take 5 months. Yes. And all is fair in love and war. I've heard that as well.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious what it'll be like for you. It's because it's fresh, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed a temptation, like to jump right back in. Like, there was this like seduction.
Yeah.
Like wanting to try soothe myself or like just numb myself or something.
Yeah.
But that I kind of noticed it. It was like it felt like more like a seductive quality energy.
Yep.
And
good noticing, because I think that's a slippery slope. Again, fine to do it once in a while, but in general, it's like go slow.
And I've also heard about and I might resonate with this with single parents, that especially as a dad, like with my daughter, it'll probably be easier the older she gets, because there's not going to be any like confusion.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you have a 2-year-old daughter as a dad and you start seriously dating a woman, it can get a little sticky of like, wait, is this my mom? Is this like a new mom? Or what?
It's a lot on the kids, right? Because they're already in pain about the first breakup or whatever. And then there's a whole thing of blending families, right? That's a whole nother conversation, is when you blend a family, that's a steep learning curve. Very steep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I continue to have a lot of integration to do. Thanks for reminding me.
Cool.
And thanks for making time to do this. And I'm looking forward to continue following you.
Yeah.
And stay in touch here in Boulder and getting fitter and more attractive the older we get.
Right on.
Why not?
Yeah. Thanks for just the great curiosity and just the combo.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Gil. Thank you. Let's do podcasts and let's keep breaking normal.